Not only do the Royals need to keep winning, they're going to have luck on their side. We'll dive into it next on Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned in to another edition of Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That is at JOHNYJ_15. You also can catch us on wherever you listen to podcasts. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners wanting to know a little bit more about this show, I bring you episodes Monday through Friday, though this weekend I will be on vacation, so you can expect an episode today, and then you can expect a Mailbag Friday episode to post tomorrow morning. We will not have anything Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Just going to take some time away on vacation. I've been saying bachelor trip. That's exactly what I'm going on. But you can count on Chance Lebo and the Locked On Royals postcast to go to you live at the conclusion of tonight's game, tomorrow's game, and all weekend long against the Tigers and every game the rest of the season. Before we get started, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off on your first purchase. I wanted to wait until the Phillies and Mariners series wrapped up before recording tonight's episode, and I will be out there again at the K covering the Royals and Rangers. I'll get some audio after the game, whether they win or lose, and hopefully the Royals can continue their hot stretch of play and make it 6 straight wins. But a big reason why I wanted to wait for the Mariners and Phillies series to wrap up is so that we could really take a big picture look at what the Royals need to do and what they need some of these other teams to do before it's all said and done. Now, with the Mariners, they were a team that if you were to pull a couple of my episodes up from around the deadline, I want to say that I expressed a lot of confidence and said that Mariners team just was so aggressive. They probably made the biggest additions of anybody in the American League. Can't say all of baseball because the Padres, of course, traded for 10 or 11 players and big league players, including former Royal Freddie Fermin. But the Mariners did a heck of a job to improve their roster at the deadline. And I just thought that, there's no way that Mariners team is going to have a poor final 50 games. They seem to have momentum on their side. They're putting together, big attendance home stands. They're selling out some of these games, and they've got the pitching staff. They've now got the offensive firepower. Like, as long as they stay healthy, they're going to have one of these spots. Then I looked at Boston, and I'm going, man, Boston traded away Rafael Devers and somehow got better. Maybe he was a clubhouse cancer. Mike Yastrzemski, when he got to Kansas City, was asked about that in a podcast, and he said, Rafi was a great teammate. He didn't have anything bad to say about him. So I really can't pinpoint why the Red Sox played better baseball once they traded away one of their best hitters. The Yankees had some injuries they dealt with, but then when they brought in some of these guys to the deadline, especially in the back end of their bullpen, they weren't pitching that well and still aren't pitching that well. In fact, they had to send down one of their acquisitions because of how much he struggled right out of the gates with the Yankees. But I'm watching these teams play, and I'm seeing the Royals start to catch fire, and we all know how important it is that the Royals continue to win games. And I know there were some people right when the Royals swept the White Sox that said, man, they're still 4 games back. I mean, they went 5-1 last week, and they didn't gain any ground in the wild card race. But the importance of winning those games is it's now set them up for tonight, which if they win tonight, Noah Cameron on the mound, and the Rangers are going to go with a bullpen game, they will be a game and a half back. Their ability to stay hot, gave some time to those wild card teams to start to slump a little bit. And now the Mariners are slumping and Boston is slumping, and the Royals are playing good baseball. I mean, there is an opportunity by the end of this weekend for the Royals to be in a playoff spot. Think about how crazy that is and where this team was just 2 weeks ago. You were starting to feel that they're just not playing good enough baseball to catch up to one of these teams. But now out of nowhere, I mean, the Mariners had won 9 of 10. Now they've lost 5 in a row. It goes to show you how long this season can be and how tough it is to hold a playoff spot from start to finish. Now, just because the Mariners and Red Sox are not playing great baseball, and the Rangers are not either. It does not mean they can't catch fire at some point. But where things stand, this is the Royals' opportunity to strike. This is their chance to put tremendous heat on Boston and Seattle. Now, Boston doesn't play today. They begin a 4-game series in the Bronx against the Yankees. And I'll tell you my opinion on that. I hope the Yankees sweep Boston. Not because I'm rooting for the Yankees and I want to see them do well. It's so that Boston can fall out of playoff contention. And the Royals have an incredibly difficult series in Detroit coming up this weekend. And we will talk about that before we wrap up today's show. And I wanted to preview that series because tomorrow will be a Mailbag Friday on a Thursday, and we won't have another chance to preview that series. But if the Red Sox get beat up by New York, and with the way the Yankees are playing offensively, who knows? That might be the Yankees' chance to beat up on Boston a little bit. That's only going to put the Royals in a better situation. So about this point of luck, I was watching some of the games last night, and you can start to evaluate a couple of those other teams and how they may lose a game. It's what happened to the Royals for a chunk at the beginning of the season, why Detroit was able to catapult themselves way up atop of the American League Central. It's why Boston and Seattle, they just took off. And they were capitalizing on the Royals losing some games that you went, man, how did they lose that? How was it possible the Royals blew that game? I mean, I go back to that Miami game where they take the lead in extras and then Kyle Stowers is a 3-run home run. A couple teams that were in the wild card race went, man, that's a good fortune win for us. The Nationals game where the Royals come all the way back and tie it up. They still lose. I can go back to a couple of games too in against Boston, I believe it was, where they just collapsed. And I'm watching the Red Sox and Orioles last night, and the Red Sox had this perfect opportunity in the 10th inning, bases loaded, 1 out, and they ground into a double play. Like the last thing you need, pop up deep enough, go and score them. You're winning that game, and Boston is able to, hold their footing in the American League wildcard race. Then you go into extras. The Orioles only got 1, and former Royal Nate Eaton's on third base, and they hit a pop-up to center field, and they decide not to tag up. Now, they respect Colton Cowser's arm. Still would have been a tough throw, and he completely sailed it off to the left, and the Red Sox end up popping up on the next at-bat. That's what I'm talking about. And the Royals playing well, but seeing some of these teams lose and lose in crushing ways. Now, the way Seattle lost in Philadelphia, they just got pummeled in all of these games. And there's always a chance they turn things around against the Athletics. Just a tough lineup to go up there and face, though. I mean, the Athletics are 13, 14 games under 500, but they've got a great offense. But watch that series, too. If they lose any of those games, how are they losing them? Because there is a part of this that involves the mental aspect. Not just losing games, not just the Royals winning games. It's maybe how some of these teams collapse, which is what the Royals desperately need. They need luck on their side. There's no way the Royals make the postseason without any luck. They are going to need a team to bottom out. In the same way Detroit, as much as they were winning last year, they needed Minnesota to just collapse, crumble. And that's exactly what the Twins did. And even though they were losing those games, and you could chalk it up to, that's the physical part of baseball. Sometimes you have an off day, and sometimes you just have an off series. It happens. But this late in the season, in crunch time, look for some of those signs. Are they blowing 2-run leads late? Are they not coming through in golden scoring opportunities? That's the good fortune. That's the good luck the Royals need. I looked at this Seattle series, and if the Athletics go up there and they're hanging 9 runs, 10 runs, 11 runs, of course you credit that to some great offensive skills. But to have that type of output against a team the Royals desperately need to lose, that's the good luck part of it. Going up against Detroit, which we're going to be talking about in the final segment. You know who they get to dodge this weekend? They get to dodge Tarek Skubal, who threw 7 shutout innings of 10 strikeouts, I believe. I mean, just continues to dominate this year. Very much could be a back-to-back Cy Young winner. But you dodge him in the same way you're dodging Jacob deGrom tonight. That's the good luck the Royals need. But for some of these teams they're chasing, I'm eyeballing Boston and Seattle right now. Cleveland, I just never can doubt them. I feel Cleveland is always going to be hanging around. But Boston, are they going to start feeling the effects of not having a Rafael Devers out there? Is Seattle, a team that in the past has crumbled late, are they going to have that again? I mean, everybody looked to them, including myself, and said, too talented. They are going to be able to take maybe the top wild card spot. But now they've got teams that are closing the gap a little bit. And sometimes those teams will be looking at the calendar. How many more days do we got? How many more games do we got? I know last year, as a Royals fan, I was watching that calendar for like the last 2 weeks. Can you please just get to the finish line? And that they did. Seattle and Boston, maybe New York, are they going to be a team that says, man, can we just get to the finish line? Or can the Royals or Cleveland collapse? Because right now, compared to 2 weeks ago, teams are having to pay closer attention to the Royals. And tonight with the victory, they can move to a game and a half back of a playoff spot right behind Seattle. We'll take our first break of the show. When we come back, going to go down to Columbia, low A in the Royals organization, and talk about David Shields. What a season he is having. And I believe that he can not only be one of the best pitching prospects in the Royals organization, maybe one of the best pitching prospects in all of baseball. We'll dive into that next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. Want to tell you about the title sponsor today in Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee. That takes the worry out of buying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off on your first purchase. Those terms apply. So again, create the account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Since we are just a few hours away from first pitch, game 3 between the Royals and the Rangers, we don't have too much to talk about from last night's game, just since we are, more than a few hours removed from the final out last night. Thought it might be a good time to take a look down on the farm and any Royals prospects that may be popping. And, we could talk about Jack Caglione and what he's doing in AAA. We do that a lot, though. I want to be talking about someone that won't be in Kansas City for a couple of years, but already is popping up on radars across baseball. And he's a draft pick from this past draft class. Jack Caglione was this star piece of the draft class. It was impossible not to put all of your attention on Jack Caglione. I mean, he was a freak in college, two-way player, 40, 50 home run potential. He's 6'5". He's just an imposing figure, and you wanted to put all your focus on Jack Caglione. And honestly, with how many picks there are in baseball, most people only remember the first couple of picks. And I would say a larger portion of fans only remember the first-round selection. So I wouldn't fault anybody that saw Jack Caglione get selected and you said, that's all I really worry about. That's all who I'm focusing on. And the second pick they made in that draft is a prospect that I believe 2 years from now could be a top 10 prospect in all of baseball. And that's David Shields. It is so incredibly difficult for a high school kid to have his first year of professional ball and it look like what it looks like for David Shields. He now has a stretch of 26 2/3 innings where he's not allowed an earned run. He did give up a run last night, but then this morning it came out that it was unearned, actually. So they went back and changed it. I didn't see the play, so I can't really comment too much on that. But it's not just been last night's start. He has almost been automatic when it comes to 5 innings of shutout ball. You don't work that deep into the game. I mean, he's a high school kid, and he was on the younger side. And when the Royals took him, there were a lot of people raving about David Shields. Like, this kid has the pitch ability. He's not going to struggle too much at the lower level, but he's not just not struggling. He's dominating in low A Columbia. I mean, the numbers are absurd. You would expect this if you took a AAA guy and put him in low A. So it's actually 26 and a third innings without allowing an earned run for David Shields. He is striking out over 10 guys per nine and walking less than 2 guys per nine. He's thrown over 50 innings, and his ERA is in the 1.5s. That's how dominant he's been. And maybe my favorite part about David Shields is his mechanics are so repeatable. It's so smooth. And I want to say it was Alex Duvall does a great job on Twitter covering the Royals. Preston Farr does it as well with Royals prospects out there. But I want to say it was Alex who compared his mechanics to Joe Ryan. Just very repeatable, nothing too wonky about it. The pitches move well, and he's 18 years old. He was a 17-year-old high schooler when the Royals took him, and he might end up in high A Quad Cities when it's all said and done. I mean, Ben Kudrna got the promotion from Double A to Triple A. There's going to be some spots that are opening up in the back half of the season. They also could look at it and say, there's no need to rush him. Have him finish out a tremendous season, help the Fireflies finish out the year, and that very well could be the plan. But I remember when Blake Walters was taken and Hero Wyatt was taken in that draft class, just 2 young high school arms that had power stuff, mid to upper 90s, and their numbers haven't translated that well. They're still incredibly young. But David Shields has come in as one of the younger prospects, and he's paired with Kendry Churio, a 17-year-old who continues to shove in low A Columbia like Shields, but he's done it in a much smaller time where Shields has done it now for over 50 innings for low A Columbia. This is a kid that I believe next year could reach Double A by the end of the season. And they could have the same plan for him. Hey, you get to Quad Cities, and let's just have you pitch there for a chunk of the season. Let's just take this year by year. You spend your first year, rookie ball, low A, then you go up to high A the next year. When you're 21, you'll be in Double A, and then the next year after that, we're talking about you debuting at 21 or 22. That can be the timeline. But, we are seeing something that we rarely see at the lower level of the Royals organization. You've got some of these guys that pop it, and the college guys usually go in and dominate in low A, and then they quickly get moved to high A, and then that's where they kind of hit their roadblocks or their speed bumps along the way. That's very possible for David Shields. But he's making such a mockery of low A, and there is a noticeable change between low A to high A. But when he gets to high A, I don't envision it being a fall off for him. I don't see him throwing 5 shutout innings every single time out, in the same way I don't envision that for Kendry Churio. But David Shields, to me, has the arsenal. He's got the mechanics. He's got the pitchability. He's got the mental approach to it. I mean, go watch him pitch. There's nothing, his face is stoic and very Joe Ryan-like, which is why I believe Alex also might have made that comparison. But he's stoic. And for most 17 and 18-year-olds pitching in pro ball, you can get a little bit rattled. And the numbers do not lie. He has been absolutely tremendous. And not just because Jack Caglione struggled at the big league level, there is a real-world possibility that when David Shields gets to maybe Double A, well, let's go 2 years from now, he's a top 10 prospect in baseball. He's got that type of upside. I mean, from the left side, he's still young, so that stuff could play up from 90 to 91 to maybe 93, 94. But the secondary offerings and his third and fourth pitch are so good and have just developed so quickly, it would not surprise me in the slightest if he's a top 10 type of prospect when he's 20 years old. Maybe that's being too dramatic when looking at just these numbers. He's going to have to do it in high A and Double A. But he was talked about a lot coming out of the draft class and how he fell to that spot. The Royals got an absolute gift. Like to get Caglione, who fell to them, and then to get David Shields, that was a great 1-2 punch. But with Caglione struggling, you could look back 2-3 years from now and go, David Shields was the best pick in that draft. Because we know how the Royals can develop pitching. And once the big league club gets their paws on him, and he's a young 21, 22-year-old arm, who knows what he could be. I mean, we talk about 24, 25, 26-year-old guys that are young in the rotation and, you can mold them. Think about a Royals pitcher debuting at 21 or 22. You haven't had that really since Yordano Ventura. Most of the young guys that are coming up that had that prospect status, were 24, 25, a little bit older, maybe a failed starter somewhere else. The Royals have a possibility here with both Shields and Chourio to have two electric front-end arms, and I should say frontline starters, for the next handful of years. I mean, in terms of pitching prospects, it's not really close for me. I believe David Shields is the number one pitching prospect in the Royals system, and I would probably put Chourio at number 2 right behind Ben Kudrna. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, though, because Ben Kudrna is a local guy and went to my high school, but happy for him to be in AAA Omaha, and I'm hoping that maybe David Shields will get a shot in Quad Cities before the season comes to a close. Let's take our final break of the show. When we come back, let's take a peek at this weekend series against Detroit. They're going to be going into a Hornets nest. That's a Tigers team that is playing some exceptional ball right now, and let's preview those matchups next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can catch us on wherever you listen to your podcast. A reminder that send in your mailbag questions to this episode, and I know a couple of you already posted it on last night's episode. Since I will be on vacation, bachelor trip, this coming weekend, won't be as active on social media, won't be posting that much, won't have an episode on Friday, but we'll be back to normal next week, Monday through Friday, I should just say. But we are going to move up our Mailbag Friday from this week to early tomorrow morning. So if you send it in tomorrow morning, anytime after 7 a.m., or really, I'm probably going to record it late tonight. So I would strongly recommend everybody to get your questions in very, very soon, because I don't want to miss anybody's. But if I do miss your question, just follow up by the end of the weekend, respond to my mailbag episode, and I'll try to have an answer for you. But we do want to have an opportunity to preview a big series with the Detroit Tigers. I've been watching a little bit of that Tigers and Astros series, and man, the Tigers really whooped up on them. I mean, that was a belt to the you-know-what series for Detroit. They pitched really well. They dominated Astros pitching in a handful of those matchups. And when you get Tarek Skubal throwing in one of them, and you get Jack Flaherty throwing the way he did in one of those series, it's going to be tough to beat Detroit. And leading into this series, I had said a few times that I don't believe it's the same Tigers team that they faced in Kansas City or Detroit earlier this year. I just don't see it being as dominant as a Tigers team. But then again, you have a Tigers team that has rattled off a chunk of wins now over the last 2 weeks. I mean, they clearly have that momentum back. You thought maybe right after the All-Star break, they'd hit a lull. Cleveland had closed that gap a little bit. But now Detroit is still very much comfortably in first place, and nobody's really threatening them. This is an opportunity for the Royals to go into Detroit and gain some ground on them in the Central. The focus for the Royals, though, needs to be on the playoff race and the wild card side. They don't need to be worrying about first place in the Central because the Tigers have 11 more wins than them as we speak. But the pitching matchups, you can make a good case favor the Royals in this one. Not all of them. They're going to have to go up against Casey Mize on Friday night, first pitch at 6:10, and Mize is 12-4 with a 3.63 ERA. The Royals have tons of familiarity with him, and it will be Ryan Bergert throwing for the Royals in that game. Good news for the Royals, Bergert has been a tremendous road pitcher this year. Not a huge sample size, but he's pitched well in Boston. He's pitched well at the Dodgers. He's pitched well the other place, I think Arizona, when the Diamondbacks offense was performing better than really anybody in the National League at that point. He had been going into some tough environments against tough lineups and holding his own. He will be tasked with another tough lineup in Detroit on Friday night and going up against a former 1-1 pick. But then on Saturday, the Royals will get Chris Paddock throwing in that one. He's 4-11 with a 5.10 ERA. He came over from Minnesota, got roughed up a little bit in his outing against the Twins. That one will be at 5:10 p.m. And after Bergert throwing, because he threw on Sunday, it will be Michael Wacha again. So Wacha, with as steady as he has been, as consistent as he has been, you've got the upper hand in that Saturday game, but that's just on paper. Michael Wacha's still got to go out there and pitch very well, because that Tigers lineup, though they don't have the star power that the Red Sox even do, or that the Yankees do, or that the Dodgers do, they've got no let up really in that lineup. They've got a very well-balanced 1 through 9. And the only reason I say it's a different Tigers team that you're facing, I want to believe that when the Royals were in Detroit and when they were playing them in Kansas City, like every hitter in that lineup was scorching hot for the Tigers. And the Royals were lucky to win one game in both Detroit and then in Kansas City. They've only got 2 wins against the Tigers this year, but when the Tigers are 76-53, maybe you're lucky to win those 2 games. But Wacha has the advantage going into Saturday's game. And then on Sunday, it'll be Jack Flaherty going up against Seth Lugo. Now, Flaherty, a bit of a unique arm. Of course, a very experienced veteran, has put up good numbers before. Tigers gave him a lengthy extension. I mean, he was on a 1-year deal. Then they flipped him to the Dodgers and then came back to Detroit on a multi-year deal. But he's 7-12 with a 4.51 ERA this season. He has not lived up to that type of contract. Seth Lugo, though, who just signed the extension, he's really only got one good start since that extension. And the big question is going to be, are the Royals going to see the Seth Lugo from the previous 4 starts or previous 7 starts, I believe it was, before last night? Or are they going to get the Seth Lugo that threw 6 1/3 against the Rangers the other night? That may be the difference in this series. I do feel that going into Sunday, that will be a rubber match game. I feel the Royals can take one of those first 2. Man, you are feeling fantastic if you can take game 1 with Ryan Bergert on the hill. But that, to me, comes down to where the Royals' offense is at. They have not given Bergert a ton of run support. Even in his last start against Chicago, he went 5 1/3, and he left the game trailing 2-1. And then the Royals' offense came to life. Didn't get any run support when he faced Boston, and didn't get any run support when he faced Minnesota either. Both of those games were losses. But if they can win game 1 and you turn it over to Michael Wacha going up against Chris Paddock, that Royals offense has a chance to put yourself in a great, great situation. And this isn't so much about chasing Detroit. This is going to be about maintaining that momentum and making sure that Seattle or Boston continue to stumble. Because the last thing you want to have happen if you're the Royals is have a great series against Texas, and then you just stumble back closer to 500 with a poor series against Detroit. It's a Tigers team that if you lost a series to Detroit, there's no shame in it. But this late in the season, you can't really afford getting bowled over by a good team. I mean, we've always talked about the focus in you got to beat up on the bad teams and you got to play 500 ball against the really good teams. And the Royals are going to get the Tigers twice over their next 3 series once they're done with the Rangers. And then they'll be done with Detroit for the year, unless they were to run into them in the postseason. But first things first, they actually have to get into the postseason and catch up to either Seattle or Boston. But that's a hornet's nest they're going into. I said I was watching that Royals or that Tigers and Astros series. Place was packed. Place was loud. They had a walk-off walk 2 nights ago, and that place was packed today as well. They got 6 off Framber Valdez in the first inning. In fact, scored 5 before they even recorded an out. And that's an Astros team that's leading their division. So you're not catching the Tigers at a great time, but you can also say you're not catching the Royals at a great time. Well, that's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen today. For your second, find the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Tomorrow, it'll be a Mailbag Friday, so get your questions in. But until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.